Transgender rights or immigration, a seismic shift is underway in what's expected of CEOs and when they decide to speak out and when they're going to stay silent. So the author, Rajiv Bhattacharya, whose new book, Open Source Leadership, has come out at a very timely moment and says leaders must have a clear purpose before diving in.
It's a question of judgment, right?
Yes.
Whenever, it is a question of judgment, I get that. But once you are super clear about your values, and when I mean super clear, I mean super clear. You don't just say my values are integrity, hard work, blah, blah, blah. It's what I'm willing to live by 24/7, 365. When you're that clear, and when you have a values-based purpose, you're not scared to speak out. And therefore, you should speak out.
Do you find too many CEOs either don't have the values, haven't thought it through, or are now only waking up to the fact that it's part of their job in the 21st century to have values on these issues and be leaders on these issues?
All of the above.
Because in the old days, it was, I'm just running a company. I'm just running a company.
Yeah,
You know,
I come here, I show up, I do what I have to do.
Shareholders.
Those days are over. Just working for shareholders, those days are over. Today, leadership is about creating a better future, not just maximizing shareholder wealth.
Of all the CEOs that you meet, and you've met more than most, how many of them get that, or how many of them are having to be dragged kicking and screaming to it?
Well, very few of them get it, but the good news is that in the open source era, they are so exposed and so naked, they're always on display, so they're beginning to get it now, that if I don't do it, I'm going to be exposed. And that's the beauty of the open source era. Look at Sundar Pichai and the firing of the engineer recently. Why was he able to make that decision? The world is 50-50. He shouldn't have been fired for speaking his mind. Yes, he should have been fired. Yet, Pichai had no hesitation in his mind that he did the right thing. Why? Because he had to do it. He had to send a very clear message. Yes, freedom of speech is important at Google, but gender and other equality is even more important. And therefore, I'm going to fire you, and I'm going to fire you publicly. Let everybody understand this is the kind of company this is.
What does it, I know you say it takes a CEO with true values that they've thought through. I understand that. But what does it take for the CEO to get to that position?
Very good. Only one thing will get you to that level of clarity, and that is deep, deep reflection about who you are, why are you in this world. Most people don't ask themselves that question. But CEOs, everybody today must ask themselves, who am I? Why am I in this world? What are my values that I'm willing to pursue, even if it means harm to me and my loved ones? And therefore, what's my values-based purpose? Now, you've done that kind of inner engineering. Now you've lost fear. Now you can make the tough decisions.
Does that have to, from your experience with CEOs, does that process happen on the way up the greasy pole or once you get to it?
It should happen a long time earlier. You don't put an astronaut into space and then start teaching them about space. That's a little too late. So this ideally should happen when they are much younger. But I have seen, for some of them, where they start thinking about all this when they do get to the top.
Would you say that we're in a completely different environment than anything you've seen in your decades of looking at this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the biggest change and the biggest difference is the total transparency and the nakedness of leaders. And it's a good thing because there's a built-in mechanism for check and balance in there. Because I'm totally on display, because I'm naked, I better be watchful about and I can't fake it because everybody today has a supercomputer in their pocket. So you have to be genuine if you want to stay there, otherwise you're going to be exposed. That to me is the biggest defining feature of the open source era.